Good morning. I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. All three commissioners are present. Commissioner Gross will lead us in a flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I move that we approve the minutes of September 30th, 2013.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections? Call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Public comment, Mr. Ron Nielsen.
I don't have an agenda, Carrie. My book didn't have an agenda in it.
It was in the front with the this edition. So maybe it's still on the table. One moment, please. We were one short, one agenda. So if you want to talk to all three commissioners, Lee will be right back.
I'll wait.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Nielsen. Thank you for waiting.
This is relative to the conversation we just had in the other room at the other part of this morning's meeting. You made it very clear that you did not care about the problem that exists at the Mineral Post Office, and I guess you have a right to do that. My next question is, I wrote a letter or a couple letters to the board here about the conditions, and I never received a response from you as a commissioner until I come to the meeting and ask again, and at that time you basically said you didn't care about the problem at the Mineral Post Office. Okay, but I'm wanting to know why you as a commissioner didn't respond to my letters, which were very well written and very specific to problems that mineral residents have concerning the post office. Why haven't you responded prior to this?
Do you have any other comments, sir?
No.
Thank you very much.
No answer?
This is your opportunity to do public comment. You've commented. The post office in Mineral is outside my jurisdiction. I have a lot on my plate. There are some things I can't do that are outside my jurisdiction, and the Mineral Post Office is one of them, and it's been explained to you, so thank you for your comments.
Yeah, my question was, why didn't you respond to me in writing? I had a legitimate concern.
I will check to see if there was a response to you in writing. I have no further public comment.
Mr. Chairman, we have a proclamation this morning regarding NOAA Weather Radio Month in Lewis County. I move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Commissioner Fund.
Lewis County, Washington proclamation. Whereas Lewis County has experienced natural and man-made disasters in the past, and scientific evidence indicates the county remains vulnerable to natural and man-made disasters in the future. And whereas the loss of life and property can be greatly reduced if the citizens have available information provided over the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, weather radio. And whereas county and city agencies, schools, hospitals, businesses, and the general public should have weather radios equipped with a special alarm tone feature that can sound an alert and give immediate information about a life-threatening situation. And whereas the importance of listening to NOAA Weather Radio will be highlighted during the month of October by NOAA, Washington State Emergency Management, and Lewis County Emergency Management. And whereas the citizens of our county need to prepare themselves to be self-sufficient for at least 3 days following a natural or man-made disaster. Now therefore, we, the members of the Lewis County Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim October 2013 as NOAA Weather Radio Month in Lewis County and encourage all citizens to increase their knowledge and awareness of the benefit and use of NOAA weather radio before, during, and after a natural or man-made disaster. Done in open session this day, October 2013, Board of County Commissioners, Lewis County, Washington.
Mr. Ross McDowell.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ross McDowell, Lewis County Sheriff's Office, Division of Emergency Management, Deputy Director. The purpose of the October NOAA Weather Month is to really encourage the citizens of Lewis County to purchase and to use, which is the big thing. It's nice to have, but it would be better if you turn it on, crank it, make sure the batteries are good, which is part of my job to keep people aware of that, keep their maintenance on their radios up, that they will get the proper notification needed for any of the man-made or natural disasters that occur. We have unfortunately had to use our NOAA weather radios before here in Lewis County for some weather-related incidents, and also with the Amber Alerts, which also go out over the NOAA weather radio. We are asking people to follow up with the NOAA weather radio with their other preparation for bad weather, winter weather, and be prepared from 3 to 5 days is what we're pushing now for evacuations, and also 2 weeks of preparedness at your house in case something does happen that you either have to evacuate or shelter in place at your residence. Lewis County does use the NOAA weather radio as part of our emergency alert system, our EAS system, to warn citizens of the natural disasters and man-made is actually our primary way of letting people know. We do have secondary ways through our Code Red system, through E911, and also through a phone tree service that we use in certain locations, besides using the natural ways of public broadcast. The NOAA weather radio is a key component for the all-hazard warning system itself. It's a comprehensive source not only for flood, but for other warnings that go out, as I said, the Amber warnings. The NOAA weather radio is tested every Tuesday, or I'm sorry, every Wednesday around midday, noontime, where it'll go off for people so that they can test it. So we keep that tool in our toolbox ready to go when everything does happen. The device itself can be purchased almost at any other electronic store, hardware stores, box stores. They are coming out with newer ones that have multiple functions besides just an NOAA weather radio. We are pushing the ones that are crank radios because it's a lot easier on people than trying to get them to remember to buy batteries or to plug them in. So it makes it a little bit easier on us. And I would like to give you my appreciation for this, for you making this the NOAA Weather Awareness Month for us in Lewis County. It really does help out my job of trying to get people aware of their surroundings and aware of natural disasters that can occur here in Lewis County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. I know because we have more gauges in the rivers, better gauges, and the Doppler radar now on the coast, our prediction can be more timely, and that all helps to make that NOAA weather radio alert better.
Very much so, yes.
If I may, ours went off and scared the tar out of my wife at the first of the month in September when we had the thunderstorms
Right.
activity.
Yes, I received multiple calls on that from several people that their radios came alive, I think was probably the best term. Their radios came alive and they never heard them before. And it kind of shocked them, and I said, well, that's what it's there for. It's to get your attention. So it worked. It did work.
They provide a very good weather report on a regular basis if you use them. They're more accurate than most of the stuff out there because
That is correct.
it's
That is
site-specific.
correct. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on the proclamation? Call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Proclamation is approved.
I move that we approve the notice agenda, items 2 through 4, resolution numbers 13 through 484 through 486.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded on the notice agenda. Mr. Elsey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Elsey, Public Works Director, speaking to item number 2 on your notice agenda, which is public auction of surplus county property to be held at 8 a.m. on October 23, 2013 at Ritchie Brothers in Chehalis. In accordance with RCW 3634 and Lewis County Code 3.30, we declare certain materials surplus or vehicle surplus if they're no longer useful to the county's needs. We have 8 vehicles that are not useful to the county's needs at this point. We have 5 retired patrol vehicles, 2 retired chemical spray trucks, and a retired soil sample core drill that will all be offered for sale at Ritchie Brothers unless they're sold previously to any agencies or other governmental offices that would like to purchase them.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tim.
Glenn Carter of the Prosecutor's Office. I'm speaking to item number 3 on the agenda, Resolution 13-485. Lewis County and the City of Chehalis jointly own undivided interests in the Chehalis-Centralia Airport. There's a proposal at this time to transfer the county's interest in that airport to the City of Chehalis. A proposal has been made that involves several aspects. It involves an aspect of assigning and having the City of Chehalis assume the obligations of the county under FAA grant agreements, which now total about $3.5 million. It also proposes the withdrawal from the joint venture agreement with the City of Chehalis. It further proposes that the airport bond, which is a bond of about $3.7 million that has a balance of around $2 million at this time, that the bond also would be provided for and that funds would be deposited into the Airport Debt Service Fund at a closing of a proposed transaction so that there are sufficient funds at all times in that account from closing forward to pay the balloon payment that is due on June 1, 2017. This is just a proposal. The proposal will be heard on October 21st at or about 10 a.m. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond to them.
I think as we went through this process and explored it, we learned that the City of Centralia still is considered part owner by the FFA, and that would also clean this up?
Yes, there is an assignment and assumption agreement.
FAA.
FFA.
FFA.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Each one, there was a time in 1961 that the county and the 2 cities, including Centralia, entered into the joint venture agreement, operating agreement for the airport. At that time, the City of Centralia as well entered into FAA grant agreements, which are quite detailed and quite onerous, and they impose obligations on each one of the parties. The proposal here would include a assignment and assumption by the City of Chehalis of the obligations of the county as well as the obligations of the City of Centralia, because you are correct that the FAA, as I understand it, from the FAA officials in Seattle, believes that the City of Centralia still is an owner of that airport, notwithstanding a transaction back in 2004. That's correct.
Thank you, Glenn.
Speaking to item number 4 on your notice agenda, which is the notice of a joint hearing to be held on October 28, 2013 regarding a proposed $8 per ton increase to the tipping fee for municipal solid waste received at the Lewis County Public Works transfer stations. For clarification, Lewis County has a solid waste disposal district, which is disposal district number 1, which is authorized under the RCWs to handle municipal solid waste in Lewis County. We also have a Board of County Commissioners, as you're aware. The disposal districts by the RCWs are governed by the Board of County Commissioners, so the 3 of you, which have different roles for that particular board than you do for this Board of County Commissioners with a different chair, et cetera. We have, over several years, been watching the fund balance for the disposal district. That fund balance increased from 1994, when the disposal district was created. The original tipping fees at that time were $95 per ton. In 1997, because of a change in how the bonds were handled, the tipping fee was lowered to $82 per ton, with part of the reason being that the bonds were lowered, but also so that the disposal district could create a fund balance that would be a safeguard against a bad economy. And it has worked very, very well to do that until 2009. And as the economy went off in 2009, we've watched that fund balance go lower and lower and lower over the years, with an average of the fund balance decreasing about $500,000 per year since 2009. This was noted at the state auditor's exit conference last year, and the county commissioners at that time assured the state auditor that we were watching this fund balance and would indeed do something if we got to a point where this fund balance was going to go into any negative numbers or be depleted too low. The commissioners at that point set a limit of $1.5 million for what they wanted in the fund balance, understanding that we also have to run the disposal districts for 3 months with some of the fund balances that we have. If nothing is done by the end of next year, we will be below the commissioner's threshold of $1.5 million. As you're aware, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee has recommended to the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of the District Commissioners for a couple of years that the tipping fee be increased. The county commissioners have stated all along that they were keeping a close eye on the fund balance and would consider increasing the tipping fees when the fund balance was depleted to a reasonable amount. Once again, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is suggesting that we increase the tipping fees. We've looked at several different scenarios. We've looked at the do-nothing scenario of leaving the tipping fee at $82 per ton, increasing it $5 per ton, $8 per ton, and $10 per ton. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee and I are recommending to the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of District Disposal Commissioners that we increase the tipping fee by $8 per ton, and that will be heard at a hearing at October 28th. And that is a joint hearing, as I mentioned before, between the two boards. So it's going to be a little bit convoluted because of the way that the RCWs are written. We have consulted with counsel on this, and they suggested that we go with a joint hearing so that both boards can be there and hear from both distinct set of constituents, even though it's the same board.
Even with this proposed $8 increase, it'll be less than it was in the 90s?
That's correct. It will still be less than it was in 1997.
So in 1997, it was $95 a ton.
That's correct.
Any other questions?
This is just the notice of the hearing, so the hearing is going to be on the 28th,
Right.
and we'll be able to hear this.
That's correct. This is noticing it so that we have plenty of notice so that people can come and comment at that time. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the notice agenda? Then I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Notice agenda is passed.
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 items on the consent agenda today. I have items 5 through 9, resolutions 13-487 through 13-491, and I move for approval.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded.
Resolution number 5 is the approval of warrants and payroll. There are 9 special purpose warrants today in the amount of $11,848.63 and 212 regular warrants in the amount of $525,087.75 for a total payment against the county in the amount of $536,936.38.
Good morning, Danette York, Director of Public Health and Social Services, speaking to items number 6 and 7. Number 6 is Resolution 13-488, approving contracts with Morningside, Reliable Enterprises, and Lewis County Work Opportunities. Previously, you approved the state contract between Lewis County and the Department of Developmental Disabilities, and that contract requires that counties contract with approved community rehabilitation programs for adult disabled individuals for employment services. Lewis County does not have the expertise on staff, so we subcontract this out to approved agencies. The total contract being subcontracted is $698,029, and that's broken down to Reliable Enterprises, $325,029, Morningside, $236,400, and Lewis County Work Opportunities, $136,600. And all of these contracts run from July 2013 through June of 2014 on the state fiscal year.
I was going to say it's very timely since this is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we are approving contracts so that folks who are people with disabilities can go to work and be
Yes.
productive citizens.
And there's no federal money we're going to lose because of the shutdown on this?
Not as of this time, no. Item number 7 is resolution number 13-489, and this approves the Coordinated Prevention Grant Agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology. So the Department of Ecology contracts with local health jurisdictions to perform solid waste enforcement and permitting activities, and the goal of this program is to provide funding assistance to local governments for planning and implementing some programs in their local solid and hazardous waste management plans. This contract also runs on the state fiscal year. However, this grant contract is for 2 fiscal years, so from July 1st, 2013 through June 30th of 2015. The total of the grant is $177,096. The state provides 75%, and the county has to match 25%. So the state amount is $132,822, and the match is $44,274, which is provided to the local health jurisdiction from solid waste tipping fees.
And could you comment as to the lateness of our processing this?
Yes, this contract was delayed at the state level. Typically, when we get ready to do the biennium grant amounts, they are never really sure at the state level if the funding will be available, so they run late. We didn't receive the formal agreement until early September, even though it started in July. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Strozik, Director of Central Services. Item number 8 on your agenda is resolution number 13-490. It's approving an interlocal agreement between Lewis County and Lewis County Fire District number 13, which covers the Boisford Valley area, for radio repair and service and maintenance on their equipment. We have several of these agreements in place with our local public safety agencies for repair and maintenance on their radio equipment. One of the problems we run into in our community is, due to the economy and stuff, both radio repair commercial vendors have closed business. So the only place to do repairs now is all the way up in Olympia or all the way down in Vancouver. So agencies are very strapped for this. This agreement will run through December of 2014. It allows Boisford Valley to bring their equipment into us, and we will repair it and maintain it for a fee of $50 per hour, $75 for after hours, and 50 cents per mile if we have to transfer out. These agreements are all very important because small agencies, number one, have very limited resources, and this allows them to still be on the air and providing service to the communities.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Strozik.
Good morning, Commissioner. Item number 9 on your consent agenda, approving the proposed acquisition of additional right-of-way for Cousins Road in Adna, Washington. We have a culvert that needs to be replaced along Cousins Road, and due to that culvert replacement, we need to acquire approximately 0.1 acre of land. It's 0.08 acres from one property owner and 0.02 acres from another property owner. The property owners are in favor of this project. We don't see any problem with it, but we do need to go out and acquire this right-of-way in accordance with RCW 8.08.
Do you have any questions for Tim Elsey or any questions on the consent agenda? With no further discussion on the consent agenda, the call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We will now have a public hearing. The public hearing consists of 4 parts. The first part is a staff report, followed up by a question and answer period, and then we'll have a comment period by the board, and then a comment period by the audience. So we will start out with our hearing for the 2014 preliminary budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Donna Truman, Budget Director. I'm here to discuss and take public comment on the 2014 preliminary budget. Copies of our preliminary budget in brief are at the front of the room. We've also posted it online and placed it in colleges and libraries around the county. We're going to also present an evening presentation that's more detailed on the 2014 preliminary budget on November the 18th at 5:30 here in the courthouse. RCW Chapter 36.40 provides certain requirements for the budget process for counties. The preliminary budget was submitted to the BOCC and the auditor on September the 3rd. Meetings have been held through the month of September for each office and elected official to discuss their budget with the commissioners. A notice of this hearing was published in the East County Journal on September 25th and on October 2nd, and in the Chronicle on September 26th and October the 3rd. This is the first of 2 public hearings that are required by state law, and the second will be held December 2nd, and that day will also be the day of adoption of the budget. The preliminary budget sets current expense, which is the county's operating fund, revenue at $31,138,647, expenditures at $33,948,153. The total of the preliminary budget is expected to be $96,095,798 and expenditures in the amount of $100,206,374. The revenue from previous years will be used to balance the budget. The difference between current expense is our ongoing operating expenditures, but the county actually budgets 50 different funds, and in the current expense fund, 31 separate departments in that fund. More details will be provided on November the 18th, but we'd really like to stress the fact that the county is operating almost 81 separate companies, and we'd really like to get the word out to the citizens on how these companies are operated and where their money is spent. So we encourage them to attend the evening presentation on November the 18th. Any questions?
Board have any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Any questions at all? Then I'll close the question and answer period and open the public hearing for testimony. Donna, would you like your opening comments to be incorporated into the record of the hearing?
Yes, I would.
I see no one signed up to make public comment. Anybody on the board have a comment? Do we have any other comments?
I'll save my comments for the budget adoption.
Yes.
So there is no action taken from this. This is merely the first hearing for the preliminary budget. If there's no further discussion, we will close the hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next hearing we have is a hearing on the adoption of Ordinance 1246, amending the Lewis County Code 1602 subdivision general provisions. The rules are the same. We will have a staff report by Lee and Stan. Then we will have a question and answer period. Then we will have a public testimony, and then we'll consider the adoption. So the Director, Lee Napier.
Thank you, Lee Napier, Director of Community Development, and accompanied with Stan May, both representing Community Development. I will let Stan present the staff report.
Good morning, Commissioners. This code amendment to Title 16 is specifically about exemptions. The first exemption is Section 16.02.040, number 9, and this specifically exempts land divisions of 20 acres or more from the provisions of Title 16. This particular exemption is not consistent with the minimum lot size requirements of 80 acres within the FRL zoning, forest resource land, as defined in Title 17. This exemption would increase to 80 acres lands designated as FRL, which would make it consistent. Excuse me. So it would increase the exemption within forest resource lands only to 80 acres. The second part of this is a new exemption. Currently, this is conservation lots. Currently, we do not have an exemption for conservation lots. And occasionally, small portions of large tracts are found to be not suitable for resource land use due to steep slopes, wetlands, and other environmental features and limitations. The lots are usually transferred to a nonprofit conservation land trust or government agency for the purpose of environmental mitigation, conservation, and restoration. This provision would exempt these from these conservation lots from the provisions of Title 16, provided they are permanently used for environmental mitigation, conservation, restoration, and it's shown on the face of the plat. As part of the public participation process that we took in reviewing these, we had 2 public hearings and 2 workshops with the Planning Commission. And the code amendment actually reflects suggestions made during those hearings and those workshops, primarily by land division professionals, surveyors, things like that. The SEPA process, we had a couple of comments. One specific comment asked if we had reviewed provisions in Chapter 1730 while we were looking at this code amendment. 1730 specifically deals with clustering of properties, which is allowed in forest resource land. And we did review it, and we found it not to be in conflict with this amendment. Other comments that we received in response to the DNS and the SEPA report were entered into the record via an updated staff report. That's what I have.
So in a nutshell, if you could put it in one sentence, what are you doing with this change?
2 sentences, because you got 2 parts of this.
We're increasing the exemption from Title 16 on forest resource lands from 20 acres to 80 acres.
So you're increasing the required lot size.
No, we're increasing the exemption. Currently, you can divide property in forest resource in anywhere in the county. You can divide property of greater than 20 acres without going through a subdivision application. And that's what Title 16 requires. This, and there's a list of exemptions, and this one exempts 20 acres and more. We are increasing that specifically on forest resource land to 80 acres, which is the current lot size zoning in the zoning code.
So in other words, in order to subdivide an 80-acre piece in FRL, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Correct.
Even in this provision.
Correct.
We
Yeah.
would not be able to do that, and what this is doing is preventing some company that owns an 80-acre parcel in forest resource land. It prevents them from subdividing that into 420s, which they would have done possibly previously, sold those 20s, had people want to build houses on those 20s, come in for building permits. They wouldn't be able to get a building permit from us because they have one house per 80 acres.
Correct. That's exactly right. The other provision is the conservation lots. This just makes it easier for forest companies to transfer this to nonprofits and government agencies, land that they can't do anything with. Small, and those are frequently small slivers. They may not be 80 acres, and it could be anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be forest.
So if you've got a small wetland or riparian zone, you can put that in a conservation easement, and you can do that less than 80 acres?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
You would have to transfer it to a conservation nonprofit or government agency, and then put it on the face of the plat.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions?
Ron Averill, Greater Centralia area. I want to thank you for asking the question on the subdivision, or the 20 to 80 acres, because I really didn't understand that when it was being presented. But I do recall that we have had some of our large our forests in the county try to do that to us in the past, and we actually had it happen in a couple of areas, and were unable to stop it because the regulation wasn't clear enough. So I'm glad to see we're closing that particular one. I am a little bit curious if you give me a better explanation on what we're doing on the conservation lands. If I've only got an 80 acre plot for FRL and I go into conservation, does it go under the 80 or?
Go ahead, Stan.
Part of the provisions of the conservation lot is that whatever is left over cannot be smaller than the minimum lot size for that area. So in other words, you would need to have more than 80 acres, and then you could slice off the excess.
That's what I wanted to hear.
As long as you still have a minimum of 80 acres
Right.
left.
That's what I wanted to hear, notwithstanding the fact that I sat on that committee for a long time, and I just wanted to hear what we're doing. Stan, I'm kind of curious if you got on the SEPA response about why aren't you considering clustering? As I recall, that same board has told us we can't cluster in ARLs, so I'm a little bit curious that they would ask us why we're not considering it.
Well, the question was, did we consider a particular section, and that section is clustering, and clustering is allowed specifically in forest resource land, which basically clustering brings the development into a smaller area, and then the rest of it is left in resource land, and it still has to meet minimum density or maximum density. So
Could you give me an example of that?
an example would be if you had 240 acres and you wanted to, and that's basically 3 80 acres, which would be a density of 3 residential homes. You could take those 3 residential homes and cluster them in 5 acre parcels close together out of prime forest land, as long as all of the rest of it is designated permanently for forest. So it's basically bringing the development, the development into a small area of land that wouldn't be prime forest anyway.
So even if you sold one of those other 80 acres, you'd never be able to put a house on it?
Correct.
Because that development right would be used up on one of the other 80 acres?
Yes. Correct, and it would be, you would subdivide it, that 240, if you were gonna make 5 acre parcels, you take those 15 acres out, that would leave you 225, that entire 225 would be permanent forest resource.
So that chapter 16 says they encourage that on forest resource land?
That's in chapter 17, that's part of the
17.
zoning code, yes.
Okay.
It's doesn't say encouraged, but it's allowed.
Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm Roberta Church. I'm from Mineral. I guess I have 3 questions. So just to be clear, and this has probably been said, but the maximum would still be the 80 acre, or 1 house per 80 acres, taking into account this clustering also.
Yes, correct.
And does this amendment to the subdivision regulations give landowners any new rights?
Only the conservation lot provision, but the 80 acres actually probably restricts a certain amount of rights in that regard.
Okay. And does the amendment to the subdivision regulation in any way change the zoning requirement that the forest resource lands of long-term significance may only be divided into parcels of 80 acres or larger?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Ron Nelson, Mineral. I have some questions. Number one, will the new amendment allow subdivisions of less than 80 acres and the development of forest resource land of long-term significance, which now has a minimum lot size of 80, and build a house?
That doesn't change.
Two, will this amendment allow subdivisions of less than 20 acres and development of forest resource land of local significance, which now has a minimum lot size of 20? In other words, can a house be built on, will this allow a house to be built on smaller than 20 acres in forest resource land of local significance?
This does not change that. That's actually part of the zoning code, and this doesn't affect the zoning code, and no, it does not.
Will this amendment result in a violation of any SEPA and/or GMA laws?
No.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions? Are there any other questions? Then I will close the question and answer period. Stan Lee, would you like your opening comments be incorporated into the record of the hearing?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Are there any other testimony from the board? Any other comments?
As was previously stated, this is a clarification amendment to clarify and prevent large-scale landowners in forest resource land from subdividing their land without any development regulations. And we've had this issue with some of them who've come in and sold 20-acre parcels, and then people needing building permits couldn't get building permits because it was in a forest resource land. We're trying to clarify that so that doesn't happen anymore.
So for public testimony, I have two people signed up. One is Ron Nelson for comments or statement, public statement. And the other one is Roberta Church. Would you like to make a comment?
No, but I will put my questions in.
Is there any further public testimony? If there is no further public testimony, I will close the hearing for public testimony and entertain a resolution.
I move that we adopt ordinance 1246, amending Lewis County Code 16.02, subdivision general provisions.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed.
Mr. Chairman, I see no further business, so I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.